think he's delivered a lot of things that business is really happy with, some of the things you've talked about already, but they are very important. I don't think we can underestimate the importance of getting rid of the mining tax, a disastrous bit of public policy, getting rid of the carbon tax, a disastrous bit of public policy, and those free trade agreements, Japan, Korea, and hopefully, if the Labor Party sees wisdom, the China Free Trade Agreement, those have opened new markets, enormous opportunity for Australians. Things like regulation, I think the government's really started to tackle, a lot more work to be done there. So I don't think we can underestimate some of those really important achievements of the government, but we've got a long way to go. We've got to see a proper adult discussion about workplace relations in this country. We've got to get our tax system fixed. We have got to continue to drive down the cost of the regulatory burden that's just swamping business, be it large or small. So we've got a long way to go, but I think generally the government hit the ground running, and we've got to see some continued momentum. And of course, let's not forget, the government had a very, very big budget problem to deal with. They've started to make traction there, but again, a long way to go.
I want to come back to those areas of ongoing challenge in a moment, and also the budget problems. But just on the tax cuts, we flippantly say the carbon tax is gone, the mining tax is gone. I don't think consumers feel any great weight off their shoulders because of that. Of course, the economy is still growing very slowly. Has getting rid of those taxes actually done much for the economy, or has that really been a bit of a sideshow?
Oh, I don't think it's been a sideshow. I mean, the mining tax, I mean, the irony now of the mining tax is that government would be paying mining companies in the way that that tax was constructed. Now that, of course, in a budget position that's very fragile, would add just another burden to the budget. Look, I don't think we can underestimate the kind of flow-through effects of the carbon tax. And of course, you know, people don't see that, but I can assure you that that plus the renewable energy target, this was really driving up electricity prices along with many other things, but these were bad taxes and they've been got rid of. Now we can actually kind of put in place sensible approaches to climate change. But certainly from a business perspective, it was very good to see the government sort of get on and get rid of those things.
So do you suggest that the budget position and unemployment would both be worse if those taxes had still been in place?
Well, I don't know about unemployment, but certainly the government, if you had the mining tax in, they'd be having to pay mining companies because of the way the commodity prices have worked. So
that's an extraordinary reminder. I think we've forgotten about that, the way that tax worked.
These were really bad bits of public policy, and I think we were seeing, bad process and bad policy. I mean, the government's put in place some very good processes. Now, we would like to see things like workplace relations done more urgently, but to their great credit, they've had a proper Productivity Commission inquiry, they've got a white paper on taxation, a proper process to deal with the Federation. We were, very frustrated with the lack of good process under the former government, so we've seen some decent process. That's very important. But as I said, we've got a long way to go because our economy is growing too slow. You've got to remember, over the last 30 years, we've enjoyed economic growth of around 3.5%. That's what's given us our living standards.
Yep.
Now we're down to 2%. Starting position on the budget, $245 billion worth of debt, expenditure growing higher than the rate of the economy growing, we've got a problem.
So how important, when it comes to maintaining those living standards and creating employment down the track, how important are those free trade agreements? Do we appreciate it? And is there a long lag in seeing any benefit? Because the government doesn't seem to have done a lot to talk up the benefits of those free trade agreements.
Well, these free trade agreements are just massive agreements. When you take them together, we're talking about billions and billions and billions of dollars of export opportunities for Australian small and large businesses. We're talking about thousands and thousands and thousands of jobs. So, we've got the Japan Free Trade Agreement, we've got the Korean Free Trade Agreement, now we've got to get the China Free Trade Agreement. I think the other point, Chris, that people have got to be reminded of, where is growth going to come from? If we want to get our living standards up, thinking about that 2%, we've got to tap into those markets in Asia, particularly China. So yes, it's slowing. We've got to remember that's still an $11 trillion economy. It's still a huge economy. And we've got to tap into that. And we've got to tap into it in the areas that are going to allow us to diversify the economy. Services, high-tech manufacturing, niche manufacturing, education, health, legal, engineering, the sorts of things where the economy's growing. And of course, getting unprecedented access for our beef, our dairy, our resources. This deal is a no-brainer. It's a transformative deal. It will transform our economy, and I am bewildered as to why we're having a discussion about whether we're going to pass it or not.